Hi, it's Ibrahim, and on this week's episode of the G10 talk show, we are going to have a look at poverty in Malaysia. We want to look at the bigger picture and see why over the years, poverty rate in Malaysia has increased despite massive political reforms which only saw the inequality gap widen. Although the last 2 years, the pandemic could be to blame. So I have with me here today our country's leading economists, Zhongli, Yongchun, Brian, and Owen.
I
Hi.
A very warm welcome to the G10 talk show. You guys recently published a research paper about poverty in Malaysia, but it was from different philosophical perspectives, right?
Yes, the research is about poverty in Malaysia, so let me give a brief introduction to our study. For starters, conceptualizing poverty only on the basis of income does not represent the poor degrees of social and welfare deprivation, and that actual living conditions are not correctly depicted. Rural poverty has become a major source of social evil and threatens to destabilize Malaysian society. Since the minimum wages of remuneration rivers are insufficient to cope with the cost of living, the education of their children, healthcare, saving for any eventuality or social mobility has been severely harmed. Although better housing for the poor and the imposition of a minimum wage have partially been realized over the decade, poverty is much more complex than just a lack of money and possessions. Although everything about poverty points to that, there's a much bigger picture, hence why we choose the topic of poverty in Malaysia.
Oh, thank you for the brief introductions only. So how did you guys conduct your research?
Analyze information for research. We mainly look into data and surveys done by the government of Malaysia and other organizations. Given that it would be much more efficient than doing a survey ourselves, we looked at information from the Department of Statistics in Malaysia to get the data and information we needed for our research. This helped us in finding the numbers of people living below the poverty line in Malaysia. Furthermore, we also analyzed studies done on the relationship between crime and mental health issues that come with poverty. This allowed us to get a clearer view of the links between poverty and other societal issues. In addition to reviewing studies alone done on poverty, we also did our own survey to find the public's view on poverty.
So how did you run the survey?
So basically, we ran our survey via Google Forms, so it is convenient for everyone and could have more outreach. For instance, from the 53 responses we received, 65% of them believed that the leading cause of poverty was low wages, while the rest believed that it was the high cost of living. Not all of our respondents were in poverty, but those that were in or below the poverty line believed that the hardship of being in poverty and had a significant effect on their mental health as well.
So what are the findings you guys made?
From a logical perspective, when Malaysians have been let down by existing economic system in terms of income, employment, wealth generation, and opportunities, causing inequality and the expanding divide between the wealthy and poor, particularly among the Bukit populace, which is mostly concentrated in rural regions, are signs of this failure.
So how do we tackle this issue?
According to Joanne Rossley, senior researcher at PM Analytics, the current policy framework needs to be revised. The government has to carry out a number of measures to lessen economic inequality, provide funds for younger people, enhance the standard of public infrastructure, and make significant investment in the development of human capital. Mr. Zuhair also drew attention to an abstract thought of poverty that cannot be quantified by conventional measurements like GDP or employment rates. Claims that this kind of poverty is best categorized as true poverty, a state in which people lack fundamental moral principles and ethical standards. It has an impact on well-being and economic Malaysia has a significant economic hit as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, especially among poor families. 5.6% of Malaysian families are now living in absolute poverty as of July 2020. When the country's official poverty threshold was amended, the B40 group, which represents the poorest 40% of the population, is the government's primary concern. This low income category continues to be more exposed to economic shocks, crises in the cost of living, and going back.
Inequality in this country has gotten wider, hasn't it?
Yes, Malaysian income disparity is still significant compared to other East Asian nations. However, it's slowly decreasing. The absolute difference between income categories has grown, adding to the common idea that the poor are being left behind, even though income growth for the lowest 40 has generally outperformed that of the top 60 during the last decade. After broad-based subsidies was eliminated, the government progressively shifted to more focused actions to help the poor and vulnerable, mostly in the form of cash transfers to lower income families.
So how significant is the increase in poverty really?
When you look at the numbers provided by the Department of Statistics of Malaysia, the number of poor households climbed from 405.4 thousand in 2019 to 639.8 thousand in 2020. Additionally, the prevalence of absolute poverty grew from 5.6% in 2019 to 8.4% in 2019. Meanwhile, it's anticipated that the prevalence of extreme poverty, which affected 78.0 thousand families, would rise from 0.4% in 2019 to 1.0% in 2019 to 7.2 thousand households. That's all from a logical standpoint.
Thank you, Yongchen. I'm sure there was a real eye-opening information shared by Dr. Yongchen. Now we are going to go for a short commercial break and we'll be right back.
That shit crazy.
We are back after a short break. I'm sure you all been very keen to listen to the rest of the study done by these gentlemen here. So Now let's hop into the physiological and sociological perspective with Dr. Brian here.
Thanks, Mr. Ibrahim. Psychology is the scientific study of the mind and behavior. Based on the research we did, we figured out these are various consequences of poverty. First, we will discuss how the pandemic resulted in poverty. During the pandemic, many people experienced job loss or pay reduction, which may lead many to turn to crime. According to Economic Action Council, more than 600,000 households that were formerly in the M40 income group have now fallen into B40 category.
So you are saying that there is a relationship between crime rates and poverty?
Yes, for example, in 2021, it was reported that in strict times that a 36-year-old mother tried to shoplift food and fuel relief bag from a hypermarket to feed her children after losing her job as a babysitter.
What a sad story that is to hear. I'm sure, are there any more consequences that poverty result in?
Yes, the culture of poverty is used to describe the theory that people in poverty have specific attitude that keep their family impoverished for generations. The habits of people in poverty are focus on the present, thought of as a dream but not reality, and spending instead of saving money. Other than that, poverty not only happen in rural area but also occur in urban area. Urban poverty has been considered to be a noticeable phenomenon in Malaysia. As of September 2021, Economic Affairs Minister Dato Sri Mustafa Mohamad revealed that the rate of urban poverty is 45% higher than rural area. Due to the increase in population, will increase the competitiveness of employment in order to get a job, as the job given are limited, and increase the cost of living in urban area.
This is the first time I heard about something called urban poverty. I never knew people live in a metropolis like KL would be in poverty. What other insights do you have for us, like from a sociological perspective?
Sociological is the study of social life, social change, and the social cause of human behavior. Based on our finding from a sociological perspective, poverty will lead to three different consequences. First, education. Around the world, there are significant challenges to education, such as lack of funding for uniform and textbook and bias against girls' education. Though it can also contribute to its eradication, poverty threatens education. Secondly, health issue. For instance, between January and July, the Minister of Health identified 465 cases of attempted suicide. Third is the conflict between children and parents. Due to the financial problem, children could feel upset toward their parents if they have to stay up late at work or the children can't get what they want.
Thank you, Dr. Brian. Now, I think Zhongli has some more information from an ecological perspective.
Although Malaysia has made remarkable progress in eliminating poverty over the past 50 years, the official assertion that poverty has been erased or exists only in small pockets in rural regions is inaccurate and has hampered policymaking. In 2016, 0.4% of the population was officially classified as living below the poverty line in Malaysia, a significant decrease from the 49% recorded in 1970.
So you are saying there's something wrong with the poverty measurement methods, isn't it?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. The poverty rate in Malaysia is likely far worse than the official statistics indicate, and the government should reevaluate its poverty measurement methods to avoid erasing the real hardship faced by many individuals throughout the country. If Malaysia is to make any significant headway on this issue under its new government, it must immediately reevaluate its strategy. Large segments of the population are being neglected, and many individuals who appear to be over the official poverty line are, in reality, living in poverty. Despite the fact that access to health care and education are nearly universal and the economy is booming, inadequate funding for poverty alleviation and safety net that falls short for people's needs are additional consequences of undercounting. Many people's access to basic needs, including food, shelter, and education, is being jeopardized by a social safety system that is too weak to meet their needs. Moreover, the impoverished in Malaysia, especially in jails and the judicial system, have been subjected to disproportionately severe abuses of their civil and political rights. Millions of non-citizens, including immigrants, refugees, and stateless individuals, are denied access to the healthcare system, cannot always work legally, and are denied admission to public schools and are often left out of official poverty statistics. Migrant workers, who make up a large portion of the workforce in Malaysia, are pushed into poverty and predisposed to being exploited by a combination of shady recruiters and employers, strict immigration laws, less enforcement of labor laws, and the threat of deportation if they stand up for their rights. In order to align poverty measurement with the cost of living in the nation, the government urgently needs to change their method and include vulnerable non-citizens group in the new measure. Additionally, it needs to end the arbitrary withholding of data from household surveys, which is essential for assessing poverty and inequality.
This really is a groundbreaking piece of research you guys have done. Will you say some of the ways the government goes about these issues are unethical?
We feel like it's not completely ethical. They are neglecting people just to show that Malaysia has a lower poverty rate than it actually has in reality.
That's a very interesting opinion. So before we wrap it up, Owen, would you like to sum up your research?
Yeah, so to wrap it up, poverty has been an issue in Malaysia since decades ago, with various factors contributing to it. Despite the Malaysian government has been taking actions to counter poverty and has shown some improvement, poverty remains an issue for Malaysians. For instance, the recent COVID pandemic has impacted the Malaysian economically badly, and this has also led to various negative outcomes, with some examples like the increasing of crime rates and the lack of proper educations. But however, with proper measurements taken, I believe that poverty will slowly reduce in the future.
That's a very good discussion we had here. It's an honor to have you guys here today with us.
We're also very thankful to have been given a platform to show our study to the Malaysian.
You're most welcome. Don't forget to comment, smash the like button. We have more guests coming on our show, so please make sure you guys subscribe so you'll be the first to know. Thank you for tuning in to today's G10 talk show.